my nuanced view of Reagan didn't include things like, Southern Strategy, the Willie Horton ad, which I do actually remember that coming out. When I look back on it, look, I think I get this question a lot of times, which is like, how come you didn't see it? Because we've seen it the whole time. I kind of get where you're coming from on that, but I also think that is a not taking into account how truly much this party has slid in the last decade. Because I think, yes, there's always been some undercurrent of racism. I think you can point to anything and say there's an undercurrent of racism. But the party never, at least in my perception, was open about that, right? There's a lot of genuine concerns about things like the southern border, but there's also people that don't like the southern border being somewhat open or somewhat not controlled because of a racial aspect to it. So I'll give you the 10-second version of I believe America's role in the world is to be an example of self-governance to billions of people desperate for what we have that they don't. The people that are trying to come over the border aren't coming here to take over America. They're coming to flee a bad situation to a better situation, And I have a lot of compassion for that, but it's very easy to demonize. It's very easy to show hordes of trains of people that look a different color than you coming up and trying to frighten everybody about them. And Donald Trump did that well with the Kurds. And this is a story I think you're alluding to. I was in the Oval Office with him. It was me, Liz Cheney, and a couple others. We were, John Bolton had actually brought us in to try to convince the president to not abandon the Kurds. And he had made a point, because I said, I made what I thought was a pretty smart point. I just said, Mr. President, if you keep a few hundred troops there, it'll give you a seat at the table in the negotiations when this war ends, which inevitably it will end up in negotiations. If you pull the troops out, you'll have no seat. And he just said, pardon my language, why the fuck do I care about the Kurds? And what that says to me is that's truly what he believes, because there wasn't press in there. There wasn't something that, Fox News was watching him say. He just didn't care. And so he could easily use the brownness of somebody else or the differentness of somebody else to make himself look better. And I truly do think in his depths he's a very racist person.